Coming out of the cave, stepping into the truth, walking the land of the brave, return back with a new view. Shadows danced on the wall, they told tales of deceit. Once we hear the call, light and dark must compete. Be bold with Boulden. The story unfolds. Be bold until the truth has been told. Be bold.
Buenos tardes. That's right. Buenos tardes, lemons. I am alive. A busy man these days. I can't complain because things are good. My daughter is graduating very soon here from 8th grade. And as a result, my life is a bit hectic and crazy when I'm not in the classroom. I'm finding I don't have a ton of time to do a lot of things that I'm normally doing, like podcasting and sourcing stories. But I am here tonight for a show that's just us hanging out. I'm going to address a few of the headlines that I have not had an opportunity to address up until now. We're going to be talking about the prescription drug pricing. We're going to be talking about the Qatar deal that's going on, things maybe you don't know about. And we'll talk a little about China and the USA and whether or not there was a deal made or it's just another great PR campaign by the Trump administration. We'll get into all that type of stuff. Plus, you can ask anything tonight and I'll answer. Nothing is off the books within reason. All right. I'll still address it, but I may just be like, this is absolutely ridiculous. All right. Let's get straight into a good evening thing. I want to tell you what I've been up to. So I missed Monday's show because I was invited out in San Francisco, California to be part of a Shark Tank experience. And I was blown away by these kids' presentations. They were high school kids that were looking for funding for some of their entrepreneurial startups. But one young lady, she actually had a presentation that I want to share with you guys, my listening audience, tonight, because she's already doing absolutely amazing things. She's got this project called the Fire Journal. Have you ever heard of this? Well, if you haven't, you're going to love the Fire Journal project. This really got me thinking about my audience and what we could do to help out. All right. So ask me anything tonight. That's right. We'll talk about my social security number. It's 555 screw you. Credit card details. I like credit cards, but I try not to use them as I've gotten older. If I don't have the cash, I should be making the purchase. And favorite milkshake? Absolutely. I can tell you right now, it's Uncle Charlie's in Cape May, New Jersey. It's a chocolate milkshake with chocolate ice cream. And today I had a chocolate milkshake with strawberry ice cream. And we'll get into that a little bit later about that as well. All right, so let's get straight to this Fire Journal project. You want to hear this story. This is awesome. Let me share my screen with you. So this young lady, she's looking for funding. And she runs Journals for Survivors of Fires. And she got this idea because that is her home right there. And that's her and her sister. When she was 9, she's now in high school. I think she's a sophomore or junior. But she received this journal with this note in it after she lost her home. And she talked about the emotional support she received through that. And I thought that it was a really amazing, personal, touching story. And then she tells us that she's looking for $1,000 in funding in order to send out 500 more journals. And I said, well, how much money have you raised with your Fire Journal project so far? She said, we've raised over $10,000. Okay, first, a high school student raising over $10,000 in servant leadership of other individuals, you're already winning me over, pouring out my heartstrings. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I said to myself, okay, look, $10,000. She was able to give out journals. I wonder how many that purchases. So I said to her, how many journals have you given out so far? She said, just over 5,000. By the age of 16, this girl has impacted over 5,000 people's lives in California that have been affected by fires. And so I said to her, do you have a 501c3? Are you a nonprofit status? And she was talking about how that is really kind of a very difficult thing for her as a teenager to navigate. She might need some legal assistance. So I'm asking you, my listeners, tonight, if you know somebody that could help a young girl who is highly successful helping other people with these fire journals. We are committing as Sharks to pay for the 501c3 to get set up, because I felt that just purchasing more journals, that's not sustainable into the future. Getting the nonprofit status set up, this is something that this young girl is going to change the absolute world for young people, victims of fires, by being able to do this. She's already working with the Girl Scouts in California to put note cards in each one of these journals. Blown away by this story. Absolutely blown away. But I need your help, the listening audience, to reach out to me. You can reach out to me direct, Greg at AmericaEmboldened.com. If you would like, or have if you already know how to set up a nonprofit, have experience in this, I would love for you to help mentor this young person and her family in order to make sure that this reaches others. And you'll know that the bill is being footed, so you don't have to worry about not being paid. We are approving the funds to get this done. So if anyone wants to take up the offer, create the nonprofit, the Fire Journal Project, please reach out to me. I want to thank John Gribowich, who's been on the show before, for inviting me to be a shark on that experience. There were several other young people that just really impressed the heck out of me. They all impressed me. But some of these ideas, like there was a young lady who was working with silkworms in order to make sutures. I don't know what I was doing I do know what I was doing when I was in the senior year, and it was not that scientific. It was a lot more shallow, I assure you. It was thinking I was going to be a rock star or something with a guitar in my hand. So I'm just blown away at these young people and the work they did. I wanted to talk about that at the very beginning. As I stated, this is an Ask Me Anything. Feel free to type your questions, and we got one just now. I got a question. What class do you teach? This is coming from Ethan, 15. So Ethan, I teach audio, radio, video, broadcast engineering, and design. It's a career pathway at a school called Thomas McCain High School in Wilmington, Delaware. I've been there for almost 10 years now. Came from industry. My bachelor's degree is actually in television and film. And so when people see this, you can see. And you see Lemons here. He says, the best damn class you can have. Well, thanks, Lemons. I do try to make that class as good to you, my former student, and all my other former students out there as I can. In fact, I try to keep in touch with all my former students as well. I think that that's pretty amazing. Ethan says, yeah, I go there. I was just wondering because I want to switch to your class. All right, Ethan, come on in. We got an open door policy. I hope that you register. Head on over to your guidance counselor. Tell them that, you want the crazy teacher that teaches audio, radio, video, and I'm sure they'll put you in the class. So yeah, that's awesome. It shows that you try because you're succeeding. Well, thanks. Lemons, you are succeeding as well. So, matter of fact, I am so proud of all my students. I have one student that recently started working at the school that I taught, and she's doing awesome. And I'm so glad to see her every single day when I walk into the building, and just seeing her do so great. I have a student that has been heralded as young up and coming Philadelphia's new artist. And he is tearing it up, playing like WXPN concerts in Philadelphia and stuff. If you guys get a chance, check out Sundiata. Matter of fact, I guess I can't play the audio of this stuff because I think I'd get flagged by some of the platforms. But I can at least show you his YouTube page to be able to pull stuff like that up. But I'll pull that maybe towards the end of the show. I don't want to get flagged for copyrighted music, even though I'm sure Sundiata would not mind whatsoever me sharing that. He'd be the first person to be like, Boulden, you're the man for playing it. Yes, Sunny D, that's right. Sundiata is still rocking and rolling. All right, so let's get straight into some of these headlines and things. Look, If you've never watched the show before, somebody sent you my way. They're sharing it right now on X or Facebook or Instagram. Make sure you go to Rumble, America Emboldened on Rumble. That's really important. We do need subscribers over there because YouTube was commie bastards and I've been banned for life. So we're trying to rebuild that audience over on Rumble. So America Emboldened, support free speech. Go make sure you subscribe there. Yeah, I know his episode from The Outlet was why I'm doing podcasting right now, and I can tell you that with 100% certainty. Yeah, let's rewind before I get into all the other stuff, Lemons. 2018, 2017, somewhere around there, I started a podcast called The Outlet. You might be able to find some episodes hidden on the interwebs somewhere. It actually made it to, I think, the top 5% of all podcasts in the world. Then the pandemic happened. I couldn't meet with students and talk to them, but I was interviewing students from all over the United States. But I started with the school that I worked at, and I was speaking with the student Sundiata, and it was one of the most eye-opening experiences ever. My student was telling me during that interview that he was homeless, and that it was because of one of his best friends letting him sleep on the couch that he was able to join, so to speak, the community where I worked. But he had to register himself as a student, and the hoops that he had to go through as a young 14-year-old to become a high school student that was homeless. Phenomenal story. But after that, I knew that I had to tell other young people's stories. So I spent about 3 years interviewing young people, telling stories. There was a teacher at one point that used the N-word in the middle of the class, and I brought in the students, how they felt about that and how they handled it with the teacher. And that was a phenomenal show too. It really opened my eyes up a lot to something that might be a little bit more common than most people realize, in English classes especially, where language sometimes from the books gets said out loud, and you have no idea how it's going to be taken, and how teachers that have been teaching for 30 years might need to reevaluate curriculum at points in time. I thought it was very interesting doing this. So I did that then during the pandemic. I was interviewing people about what was their experience like, and they were all talking about how they were robbed of graduation. So I ended up making a graduation video for my own students and being part of that team. And I will say, I think I made one of the best graduation videos of all time back in 2020 by myself with a broken shoulder that I had surgery on. Modest, I know, but I kicked some major ass on that video. I'm not going to lie. I saw other schools, and mine was by far the best. Anyway, after that, the podcast kind of fell away because we couldn't meet in person. And so I started this podcast. So you have The Outlet and my students to thank for the reason why I get to do this now. And that made it onto a national network down in Tampa, Florida, the America Out Loud Network. None of that would have happened if it wasn't for the conversation with Sundiata. So I think it's important, whether, you see Mary up here, like I've learned to start talking about my faith a lot more during these things because I think it's important, because there's a lot of people that are lost right now. They don't believe in anything, or if it makes you uncomfortable that I talk about stuff like this, then sit with your own uncomfortability about it. It's not me saying that the religion that I follow is the one that you should follow, or that it's an elitist type thing. I respect you wherever you're at. But for me personally, I do believe that the good Lord has guided me in a very intentional way to where I'm currently at in my show. And I think it's very important that I acknowledge that, the blessings that have been bestowed upon me in order to get to where I'm at. So I think that's really important. All right, let's see what he wrote. I spoke to the dude that assisted in your broken shoulder today. I never knew M did it until he said it today on the phone. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Well, I will tell you, I forgive him, but he's never truly apologized. Yeah, so just for the record, the kid that broke my shoulder, I was doing a base running drill. I was beating him down the line as a 40, see, I'm 46 now, so I was 41 years old. He was 16, 17. I was beating him in the race, and so he grabbed me by the shoulder, stepped on my foot, tripped over me, landed on top of me, driving my shoulder into the ground, breaking my clavicle on the left side to complement the one I had already broken playing football on my right side, and ended up having surgery because the clavicle came within 2 centimeters of puncturing my lung. So it could have died, actually, from that injury coaching baseball. But yeah, I'm glad that you talked to him. I'm glad that he's doing well. I forgive him. Tell him that I'm asking for him if you talk to him again. What's going on, Trash Can on Wheels? What's going on, Saban? My brother from another mother, Saban, is here. That is awesome. Glad to see you joining into the show, Saban. What's up, Colucci? Good to see you as well. SMCP, good to see you. Stash, good to see you. So glad that so many of you guys are tuning in to the show. Again, comments are open. Feel free to leave them. I'll be reading them as we get into everything. Now, what I started to say before I'm like the guy, I'm the dog from Up, right? I see a squirrel. I'm like, hey, squirrel. There, I did it again. I want to get into some of these headlines because I have not had a chance to weigh in. My partner, Chris Michaels, who I do the show with on Monday nights, he was a trooper. I told him I was going to join him by 9:30. I didn't get off that Shark Tank thing until, I don't know, closer to like 11:30 at night. So Chris held that show down by himself, but I disagree with Chris. I disagree with Chris Michaels. Shocking, I know. And I need to address that tonight on the show a little bit about some of this Trump stuff that's going on, right? I think it's really important in all things that we do that nothing gets an immediate yes, well, that's amazing. All right. Once we start doing that, I think it's a true problem. So I don't know where you guys want to start off. I got 3 things I can talk about with Trump right now. We can talk about the Japan USA deal. We can talk about the Qatar giving a plane that I was prepared to talk about. And we could talk about the prescription drug cost executive order. Anybody want to begin anywhere? Let me know what you want me to talk about. If I don't see anything, I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. No one gave a vote. I'm going with prescription drug cost. Let me pull up the White House executive order real quick to put up on the screen. Now Lemons wants Japan. Too late, Lemons. Too late. I'm moving on to prescription drugs. We'll talk about Japan. Wait a minute. What are we talking about with Japan? I was talking about USA, China. Did I say Japan somehow for some reason? I don't know. But we're going to be talking about the USA, China deal. I don't know what you're talking about with Japan, but be a little bit more specific, and I'll try to go. Unless you're trying to call Japan and China the same thing, in which case you go back to geography class and completely different cultures, everything too as well. So I don't think that's what you meant. So maybe I'm missing a story. All right, so here we go. Let's go to the White House webpage. It's right there, White House. All right, so we come down here to executive actions. We got modifying reciprocal tariff rates to reflect the Republic of China. We'll get to that in a moment. Here it is. Delivering the most favored nation prescription drug pricing to American patients. Now, everybody was saying, hey, this is a great thing here. I'm going to slow this down, slow your roll for just a quick moment. This executive order is going to affect millions of Americans, including people like my mother, who has been insulin dependent, taking drugs that when you hit the donut hole, quite honestly, I guess I did say Japan. Sorry about that. I meant China. This is going to change my mother's life. It's going to change millions of Americans as well by paying a cheaper price. But I'm not sure it's the way that we should be going about this. All right. So go back to, I guess it was Monday. Here we are on Wednesday. I'm getting all my days. It's been so busy. Trump signs his executive order. You got up on the screen, right? He said he wanted to tackle the issue of the fact that you could go to another country and you could buy the same Ozempic for like 10% of the cost of what you're buying it for here in the United States. Now, I don't care if you're a leftist, a rightist, somewhere in the center, in between. I think that we can all agree upon the fact that the healthcare system is really screwed up in the United States. And I think we can all agree upon the fact the drug prices in this country are too damn high. Remember the too damn high rent guy? Well, I think we could say that the drug prices are very similar. It's way too high. Now, how do we fix that problem? That gets a lot more complicated. So I think, okay, balance the executive order here. It's got good intentions. The aim for it wants to increase competition within the pharmaceutical industry amongst different companies, so that way you as a consumer have more choices. It also, I think, is attempting with this Ozempic example that I gave, and Trump actually gave it first. It was a funny story, actually. it's attempting to bring the United States drug prices in line with your pain in other developed countries. Now, that sounds really fair on the surface, right? Who is not going to argue with the fact that, like, yeah, we should be paying the same thing that other countries pay? Like, that actually makes sense. Well, this order encourages states to import medications now from abroad because prices are much lower abroad. Now, that could offer real relief for the patients that are struggling to afford the prescriptions. That could help alleviate the regulatory barriers that have been put up. It might even help some new drug companies get their product onto the market a little bit more easily, which would lower prices through competition. That's all good. There's also the problem, though, that if you take a generic or you take something being made elsewhere, that formula might affect your body differently. I was on a medication at one point and they switched me and it was being made in India all of a sudden. And I knew that like my body was responding really sluggishly. I didn't know what the heck was going on when I was on this. And I contacted my doctor and I said, look, I'm on the exact same prescription, but the pill looks different. And come to find out, it was simply a different pharmacy, not in the United States, but one in India. And the inactive ingredients or active ingredients, I guess, so to speak, were a little bit different. And as a result, it was affecting me. So yeah, it's a practical idea. It deserves credit that you could do this, but let's also be honest. It's basically a desire from the president right now to just loosen the grip on this industry that people on all sides believe is way too protected, way too insulated, way too expensive. But I think we got to ask the important question. How the hell are we going to get there? I mean, right? Like, is it through executive order mandate that you're just going to say the prices are now this? Well, why should I innovate drugs at that point in time? Will I be forced to take that Indian product that messes up my body now because that's the cheaper option and I can't afford the more? I mean, this could have some problems. So at the heart of this strategy, right, I think that United States drug prices tied to what other countries are charging for the same thing, all that is a price control. And that should raise concerns for people if you value a free market, because I do think there's inferior products and superior products that are out there because I've seen it. I've experienced it with my own body. And so when the government is going to step in and basically say, I'm your Fuhrer, I dictate this is what you're going to be putting, we're capping your price, you can't make more than X amount of dollars on something. Look, there's good intentions there, but the incentives then, in order to innovate for some of those companies, I think get distorted as well. And so innovations could be cheapened. Life-saving drugs that we might need could take longer to come onto the market. Now, granted, I think we should all be eating much healthier. Maybe that would be life-saving too. But let's be honest, in the long run, medications have saved many, many lives. And in the long run, this could hurt the very patients that they're designing to help because they may not have access to something that's a more superior product because we've hurt innovation. That's what happens when you coerce people to do things. It doesn't matter if you're coercing them to do it with business practices, faith, whatever it may be, in the classroom, on the sports field. You're putting pressure unduly to accept something, and it's going to have a problem. So here's an example that I was thinking of. If you look at Medicaid, okay? Like some people, when they get on Medicaid, you get drugs that are sold directly through that program. Now, for some people, if you can hold those prices like you said, Medicaid, you might think to yourself, I'm holding Big Pharma accountable to the prices. But I think it should also raise a question then about, should government be able to force a private company into a pricing model? I mean, we've heard that in the healthcare industry, they want to do this to hospitals. They want to tell hospitals what they can pay for certain care that you might receive there. Do you support that? The libertarian in me does not like that. The Keynesian economist in me does not like that. Free market economics. I have a little bit of a problem with this approach, but maybe I'm wrong. So what I have a problem too is the tone. The tone of this executive order. It talks about putting the American patients first and not subsidizing other patients' health care in other countries. That sounds patriotic, right? It's like the Patriot Act. Patriot Act is there. How could you argue with it, even though it takes half your rights? Underneath, though, what Trump's really doing, it's protectionism. And protectionism is just an economic philosophy that's going to prioritize national interest over open trade. Now, in some circles in the nationalist movement, that's going to be great. But it's not good for global trade. It's not good for a globally connected world. And it's definitely not good for a competitive marketplace. The marketplace really suffers when that type of stuff happens. So I think that this executive order is a really mixed bag. I don't hate it. I don't love it. You're not going to see me out there cheerleading for Donald Trump to do this. I've been telling you this again and again about executive orders, but I don't hate it either. There are reforms here that certainly could open up the market. They could empower you and I as consumers where we want to get things. You get the choice. I could go get that, what I said, the India generic cheaper, or maybe America would sell cheaper now. I think libertarians would support, being able to get whatever you want, wherever you want it. But when we start using tools like government coercion, interference, then normally what's going to end up happening is the pricing mechanisms, the pressure tactics, that normally has some type of unintended consequence. Anytime government gets involved in free market, I personally believe government screws everything up. I've seen it too many times. When government offers free money, everything goes up higher, right? This is just another thing that I think is going to have a long-term, it's going to hurt all of us. Now, my question is this, for no matter where you are on the political spectrum, you're tuning in tonight, you're thinking about this. My question is, do you want short-term savings through government control, or do you want long-term affordability through genuine competition? Removing the barriers that are already there for drugs that enter the marketplace, removing the red tape that government has put up there so people can actually compete against a company like Pfizer and become a more solvent company. Wouldn't that be much better to have more competition than to just say, well, this is the price that you can get? I don't care if you're a leftist, a rightist, a centrist, a libertarian. That's the question I want to ask. What is better? Short-term savings through this executive order, or a long-term affordability through competition? So that was kind of where I disagree with, the people that are cheerleading this, saying, oh, he's finally taking this on. I think many may go ahead, they might argue that the root of the problem, I think we could all argue, it's not little government. It's always going to be too much government. Although some people might be in love with government. I'm personally not there. It's too much government in all the wrong places here. I'm not sure what you guys know about the pharmaceutical industry, but it's already tons of regulations. You got patent after patent. You got wait so many years before it can open up. You got bureaucratic red tape that's constantly being put up for people. So instead of adding more controls to this process, maybe the better path is just to remove all the old ones and let the new players come in and see if it drives pricing down. I already can tell you, most people hate big pharma. I hate big pharma, but that's not what we're debating here. What I'm asking is, what is actually going to make drugs more affordable and also preserve innovation long-term? And I think that that's a challenge that's worth getting right and having the conversation that we're having tonight, instead of just cheerleading, yay, another executive order. Does that make sense? I think, let's see here. Lemons, we've been paying for some countries' healthcare systems for years now. Yep, we have. If we get our meds from other countries, won't the tariffs just make the prices closer to what they are now? Yes, that's actually, I didn't think about that. That's just another tax. How about a rumor? How about I do something completely out there that I heard? I'm guessing this isn't happening. I'm guessing this isn't happening because it was a rumor last week that I was told could be announced or leaked by Monday of this week, and it didn't happen. Instead, we got the United States-China deal. But Donald Trump, if this is true, what people were leaking to me and talking about in D.C., do what I'm about to leak to everybody for you. And maybe I even said to somebody, maybe I'm meant to leak this out. I was told that there were conversations in DC right now that the tariffs will enable anyone making $200,000 or less to no longer pay income taxes. I'm told it's an announcement that was being considered to run around, that they're running economic numbers on it. Anyone under $200,000, no more taxes, because they'll make it up in tariffs as a tax at the register, so to speak. The country will make their money. That is the way that the country used to fund everything. That is what built the Industrial Revolution. I think that that is a bold plan. Can you imagine Donald Trump telling everybody, make under $200,000, you no longer pay taxes? What would the left come back and attack him with? Seriously. Like, what could you argue with at that point in time when you say 200,000 less, no more taxes? I think liberals' heads would literally melt that day, because you can't sit there and be like, oh man, he's not taxing the rich. He's taxing the, wait, there's no more tax on the poor? Wait, the middle class has taxes completely go away? So I'm looking forward. So yes, I think that, they've kind of said that it was part of the plan, Lemons, but I heard there was going to be an official announcement. That official announcement was supposed to be made on Monday, and that did not happen. So that's what I wanted to share. Whether I'm leaking something I'm not supposed to be leaking, I don't think so. There's enough of a rumor mill out there. But I did find it interesting. I'm like, why did this fall in my lap? Does somebody want me to talk about to see how people start to respond? Yeah. And yes, that's right. The rich don't make any money. They take out loans and continue to enrich themselves. Except some of the rich do make money, Lemons. They really do. It's not all loans. There's a lot of money funneling in some places. All right, so that was the executive order on the pharmaceutical industry. I can speak tonight. I told you, I've been burning the candle at both ends. Haven't really been feeling great either, not going to lie. But I'm still here doing a show, even though I got on about 30 minutes late. Chip, what's going on, brother? Glad to see you here as well. What's going on, Boats World? Ian, what's going on? Celeries, what's going on? Good to see you all tonight. All right. So China, USA. Now, over the weekend, I got to see if I can. This is actually old news now. Isn't it wild that something that got announced 2 days ago is already forgotten and memory hold as if it's a big win by some or it's a big loss by others? I think that that's kind of interesting to see what's going on there. All right. So let me see if I can find this initial announcement about China, USA. This is, I should have had this already pulled up, so I apologize. But again, we're having fun here. President Trump, many years ago, we opened up the USA. Now it's time for China to open up, and that's part of our deal. He claimed over the weekend that he had a landmark deal that would end the national emergency on tariffs. And then I decided I was going to read the deal when it came out on Monday, because this administration, I want you to pay attention to this very carefully. If you are a MAGA Republican, I'm speaking directly to you right now. MAGA Republicans, I'm struggling with this part of Donald Trump, and I need you to help me understand without the argument of he's playing 4D chess. Why is it we keep getting big announcements and then they never come to fruition? Not the way they were announced the first time, at least. Well, the China-United States deal is one that I was waiting for. Okay, tariffs are off. We've agreed to some type of trade thing. We got a 90-day truce. That's not a deal. That is not Donald Trump coming in with this great deal that's going to protect American consumers. It is simply making an announcement saying, pay attention, the ball's underneath this, and then they move it real quick. You don't know where the ball is, and before they go, oh, the ball's still there, but they've gone home, and you stop playing the game. That's what this administration seems to be doing lately. They make these announcements, You get the headlines, you think a great deal was made, you start talking about it with your friends, start saying, Donald Trump got another win, look at this, all these people saying the stock market was going to crash, that we're going to be in this trade war with China. He got them to the table. Trump called this a breakthrough. He said that it might be enough to end the so-called national emergency that he declared over the trade deficit between China and the United States. Look, my job here is to set aside political noise left, right, and just look at the facts at hand in front of us. This is looking like nothing more than what I'm seeing from the Trump administration over and over again. It's a short-term type of fix dressed up in the wording in as sheep in wolf's clothing, or wolf in sheep's clothing, I should say. It's dressed up that way as a long-term solution. Don't get me wrong. Reducing the tariffs is good. The stock market went up immediately. It liked it. Any step toward freer trade, after just talking about the pharmaceutical companies, fewer government-imposed barriers, I'm worth acknowledging that. I'll give Trump a win on that. It's a big win for Americans. Lowering tariffs from 145% to 30% on Chinese goods and from 125% to 10% on U.S. exports to China, that's great progress. For now. Look, there's a catch in all this. It wasn't the deal that was promised over the weekend. It's a 90-day truce. It's a timeout. It's a pause. There's no structural change yet. It doesn't address currency manipulation that's been going on. It doesn't talk about the value-added taxes that's been happening. It's just the tangled web of trade imbalances that continue on with countries like Vietnam, Mexico. You can go to Germany as well. It doesn't solve any of the deeper problems that the overregulated markets have created or central planning with our currency here. From my point of view, the biggest issue goes back to what I just said about the pharmaceutical industry and Trump and the executive order. The government should not be micromanaging trade. That shouldn't be happening in the first place. When Washington, D.C. is the one that's picking the winners and the losers through tariffs, quotas, emergency declarations, what's going to happen is you're artificially manipulating the market. And I'm starting to pay attention to who is making the money when these things happen. Who gets the heads up from Trump, from people that are working these deals, that the markets are about to be disrupted, because everything seems to be complete money manipulation right now. And the true loser is people like you and I. The billionaires, the millionaires, they're not losing on these deals. They know when to pull their money from the stock market. They know when to reinvest, and they know when it's about to hit big again. What's happening is consumers are still paying more. Businesses are operating in uncertainty that aren't part of the millionaire class. And the politicians are just rolling in like they're the new Jesus Christ Savior, coming in to solve the same problem that they all created in the first place. And it would be one thing if it was the first time we've seen it, but it's not the first time we've seen it. I keep telling you guys, the Trump administration announces multiple trade deals repeatedly. Do you remember the U.S. MCA? Do you remember the Korea agreement? Do you remember the Russia-UK agreement last week? The trade framework that just happened? All of these things grab headlines. All of these things get the MAGA people to go, look, Trump is winning. But the protectionist policies, it's not real free trade. It's temporary band-aids that are enriching people that are not you and I. It's not benefiting actual America. But if you call this out, you got people that are brainwashed to say, well, you're not being a patriot. This is not a left or a right issue. This is a truth issue. This is something you got to talk about. There needs to be something that actually shrinks government power. That hasn't materialized yet. And I mean shrinks government power from China, not just the United States. So the deal with China right now, the 90 days, the markets have gone up, but this is a pause, not a solution. So please stop misrepresenting it as the solution. It's not. The national emergency that Trump said was over trade that is decades upon decades of bad policies. No 90-day truce is going to fix that. right? It's not going to happen. We got a major problem with China. We really do. And China actually has a major problem with the United States too. They've invested in our debt. We are too big to fail for them. So if we want to have some type of long-term prosperity at this point in time, we don't need more tariffs. We don't need more deals. We need less government interference. We need more economic freedom to make decisions for ourselves. And we need to trust the people, not the politicians, to innovate, to make good choices in the global markets that are there. It's difficult to do that with all the currency manipulation from the Federal Reserve, from the BRICS countries, trying to get the yuan. There's a major problem going on here. And what I'm trying to tell you is they have all of us fighting against one another while all of them are living great, lavish, lovely lifestyles and laughing at us going, we made them think we really did something for them there. I'm sorry. When I go to the grocery store, my grocery bill for my children to feed this household is still really, really inflated. And I don't expect it to go down. I'm sorry. But when I look at housing prices and I see that the interest rates, despite the fact we were in a recessionary type of market, interest rates continue to climb for the housing market on 30-year mortgages. The housing market is completely starting to crash in many places in this country. You got companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, buying up all the real estate. Eventually, the WEF agenda of you will buy nothing and you will enjoy it, it's not just because it's an agenda from them. It's because we allowed the billionaires to buy up everything and there's not going to be anything to purchase that you can afford. You have to be what Lemon said. You're going to be constantly borrowing money to borrow money in order to borrow money. Oh, well, I don't know. What will happen first? Will housing become so unaffordable everybody just lives with their family the rest of their life? Or will Grand Theft Auto 6 come out? I managed to work Grand Theft Auto 6 into all this. So for those that don't know, there's a video game that has been highly controversial throughout the years with Congress and people saying video games make people violent. Okay. I don't believe that, but there's a lot of things in culture and stuff that I would say are more culpable than video games. That all stated, Grand Theft Auto is probably the most looked forward to video game in the history of video games. Over $2 billion. $2 billion have been spent on the development of this game. It was supposed to come out the fall of this year, and they just announced with a second trailer it would be released in May of 2026. I still think that it's because they're waiting for this next system to happen. But my question would be, like, will we have like a big political or geo excursion type of event that no one gets to enjoy this game by the time it comes out? I mean, I don't know. We might have a housing crash before Grand Theft Auto 6. People may not be able to afford that game because that game's going to cost like $120 to buy the game because it's cost so much to make. It's kind of like that pharmaceutical company stuff. Anyway, you know what else was going to cost a lot to make? This has the left completely melting down. And there is both valid criticism and critiques on this and invalid critiques and criticism, as with anything. Have you guys seen what's going on with this plane? The Trump Air Force One, $400 million Boeing Palace in the Sky. Let me pull up a link for this real quick. Hold on a second. So Trump was offered this plane, Trump plane. I just typed that. I'm sure it'll come in right there. And people are saying, does this violate the Constitution? Can Trump take on the Qatari plane? Is it possible? Okay. We've known for Trump's first term was when I first really started hearing that we needed a new Air Force One. We've known for a long time this was coming. And yet it's just now being talked about. Where was Air Force One conversation under Biden? So if this country that has built this plane, built in America by Boeing, $400 million, it's a 13-year-old Boeing aircraft. American workers have already been paid for it. Now the question ABC News is putting out there and many others, and it's a rightful question. Under the emulsions clause, it's a rightful question. It's stating, can Trump legally accept a gift from Qatar of having this as Air Force One and then put into the presidential library. All right. First, I want to point out some hypocrisy. Donald Trump just cut a huge deal in April of this year, just a month ago, while he was president of the United States, to develop Trump hotels in Qatar at the tune of what they estimate would be worth $5.5 billion. So the same time that Trump enriches himself with $5.5 billion, and when I say himself, I mean his company, then he also gets gifted a $400 million plane that's like a palace in the sky, quite literally, when you see the inside of this thing. You got some photos down the bottom right that are coming through. You can see the television, the couch that's there, the love seat with the desk. It's a beautiful plane. It really is. It's an awesome plane. But, okay, let's just put the shoe on the other foot, please, if you are a Republican. Because I called out Hunter Biden and Burisma. I called out Hunter Biden and his Chinese contracts, his failure to register as a foreign agent, and the charges that should have come to him before the pardon. I called all this stuff out. Don't you think it's also fair that, let's just pretend a situation here. Let's pretend that Hunter Biden had associates in China, and him and Joe and the other Bidens allegedly had worked out a deal that was going to get them $1 billion. And that same week or 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, China announced that they were providing just Joe Biden for the next 3 years use of this plane that they owned, that they bought from Boeing, to travel all around. It would be part of his presidential library. Can you imagine the Fox News headlines about Quid Pro Joe and what happened? I'm just saying, can we start equally applying our ability to reason with logic to all sides? Reasons why I say do the deal. All right? Reasons I say do the deal. We already knew Trump was a businessman before he ever got elected. You had a reasonable expectation that it was not going to stop him being a businessman. And if you're on the left and you want to be shocked at the fact that he's still making deals with Qatar, shame on you. Because the guy is still a businessman. He doesn't stop having the Trump Tower Association and all the Trump industries simply because he's a president. He's got a whole family that's running that. So I don't fault him in this. Also, shame on you if you say that accepting a $400 million plane is simply a bad idea when it could save all of us $400 million, save us our taxpayer dollars or the development. What you would likely have to do is take this plane from Qatar, fly it somewhere into the United States in a secure area, strip it down and spend millions upon millions of dollars looking for any devices that would be phoning home, anything that might be on that plane that could compromise United States intelligence, the superiority of our military, the operations of our president. All of that would have to go through a careful comb before you could ever allow the president to use something like this. Because it does seem like a Trojan horse. There are countries that have put devices in the White House during their visits and embassies in order to spy. Go to the Spy Museum in the United States, Washington, D.C., and you will see a long history of this. And so I think it's really important. Trump is a businessman. Let's acknowledge $5.5 billion. Does it look good? No, we'd be calling it out if it was Joe Biden, absolutely, and calling it quid pro quo. That all stated, he's a businessman. I understand it. Do I think it's wise to take a plane from a foreign country that has ties to the very people that we have been kind of at war with? No, I don't. But I do think it's him signaling to the world at this point what he's doing in Qatar, that we're shifting away from Israel and the support just to bomb whatever and to go back in and trying to find other allies for our long-term security. I don't blame him for that. I think that's wise. I'd take the plane. I'd comb it for months on end until everybody can tell me there's nothing else that's wrong with it, and then use it. Outside of that, then get off your asses, start building a new plane for Air Force One, because our president's got to be able to travel securely, and make it happen. But the fact that we're not doing that, and Boeing, by the way, I'd rather have, let's go back here, I'd rather have a 13-year-old Boeing than a brand new Boeing. Have you seen Boeing's track record lately? Right? Right? I mean, I got to fly in June. I'm not looking forward to flying in June. I don't know what type of plane body I'm going to be on, but I'd rather be flying on a 13-year-old airplane than something coming out of Boeing right now. And maybe Trump knows that too when you talk about the parts. All right. Oh, my buddy Rick Jensen. That's awesome. Rick Jensen said the same things you're saying, and I agree, to be honest. Well, if Rick Jensen said it, I agree too, because Rick is an awesome dude, and I often think a lot like Rick. So I would agree with that. I'm guessing he probably, if I know Rick, did Rick point out the fact that he's a businessman, and did he be doing deals there? Or did he point out the part about the plane needing to be combed? I feel like from a security standpoint, Rick's going to point out the part of being combed before he points out the business deals. But I could be wrong. That's awesome. I got to get in touch with Rick. I'll tell him that we had some of the same ideas. And then he also says, I'd like to add the fact that us getting a used plane is so much better than a... There you go. I didn't even see that as I was saying that. Build quality of a Kia. Yeah. So Lemons, we are aligned. We are on the exact same part. And it looks like Rick Jensen. Yep. I could picture him mention the security side. Absolutely. That makes complete and utter sense to me. All right. We are 51 minutes into the show. I was planning on doing 30 minutes, but you know what? I was going strong tonight. I got into a bunch of different parts and things that I wanted to do. I am in this, like, I'm all up in my feels lately, guys. I gotta be honest. I just said, guys, I feel like my daughter gets in the car and she says to me, guys, guess what happened today? I'm like, it's just me in the car. Why are we saying guys? She's like, it's just what I say. I'm like, okay. Yeah, go ahead, type your question. I'm just going to share this with you. So I'm experiencing what it's like to be a parent that has a kid that's growing up now. And so it's a little bit wild to me to have my child graduating 8th grade and going to high school next year. And as a result, next week we have some end of the year wrap up and the year after. So I may be spotty on podcasting over the next 2 weeks. I will try to keep the schedule as good as possible, but I'm like doing end of the year stuff. Last night was a sports banquet. I got graduation coming up the week after. I'll be away for, so I won't be doing a show that night. And so I'll be in and out, but I'll still be here. I have not given up on you all, so don't worry about that. All right. Question was, why fly and not drive? Okay. So you caught that I'm flying soon, because I'm going to, fly about 4.5 hours away. That's why, I can't drive there because last time I checked, my Tesla will not handle the Atlantic Ocean well. So I would have to drive over about 3,000 miles of the Atlantic Ocean in order to, not 3,000, about 2,000 miles of the Atlantic Ocean in order to get to my destination. So I would have to get a boat, and that boat is going to get me there much slower than the plane will. So that's unfortunately why. I hate flying. Driving to Mexico in December, yeah, I don't blame you. If I could drive to my destination, you sure as hell better believe I'd be driving to my destination. I would not be flying. But here's why I'm in life. Like, to not fly and not go on the trip with my family and something happened to my family, I wouldn't want to live anyway. So I would rather be on the plane with my family and have something tragic happen, knowing that, I didn't have to go on life without them, because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't go to. So I will be flying. I'll do it. And we'll be good. Duracell branded floaties for the Tesla. That's awesome. I do know that there's people that actually have made floating Teslas that can go in water and stuff. That would be pretty cool to have like a solar powered boat that could continue the run, that was waterproof. I know the batteries and stuff. You'd have to have them sealed really well because the salt in the batteries on the lithium would be an absolute disaster. That's where most of those fires start anyway. But that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going because my family's going, and I'm not apologizing for that. But I'm not comfortable with it. I hate flying. So if anybody ever wants me to do an appearance, I often will tell people that, I will be driving and needing a hotel along the way. I'm happy to pay for the hotels along the way. Just get me the hotel room when I get there to do my appearance and to do my talk. But it will take me longer to get there, and it takes me longer to travel because I do drive everywhere. For the World Cup coming up here in the United States in 2026, my plan is to travel across the entire country going to World Cup soccer games. Go down to Dallas Stadium, see a game there, head on out to Seattle, see a game there, and make my way around the country with the family. Having the summer off as a teacher, that will make that doable for me. June, July, we can spend about 3 weeks traveling. My part right now is I'm trying to figure out, do I get like a Winnebago and travel, or do I just do it in the vehicle? And so if any of my listeners out there have traveled via like Winnebago, RV, pros, cons, things that I'd want to know, let me know what your thoughts are. How should I be doing that trip across the United States? I also need to stop in Colorado at some point in time. I keep telling my family, Colorado has been calling my name ever since I dated a woman in college, girl in college, woman now. Dated her, went out to Colorado, and fell in love with Colorado. It is absolutely beautiful. It's been on my heart, on my mind for so long. And I just feel called there. I want to get back to the Rocky Mountains. I want to show my family it now. I want my children and wife to experience it. It's just such a beautiful place. Get up to Estes Park, the places that really her family really showed me, phenomenal things out there. Just great culture of Colorado and stuff, and how sunny it is throughout the year. So I'd like to get back out there, and so maybe that will be my trip too. So I need a vehicle that can get through the Rocky Mountains, not just not just driving through Texas and driving around the outer parts of the deserts and stuff. So yeah, if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. I'm happy to take them. Any final questions from anyone? We will be wrapping up here in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. While you type in your questions, I'll just remind everybody, if you go to americaemboldened.printful.com, you can find America Emboldened merchandise. And let me tell you, this merch is super, super nice. Great high quality things for you to purchase. I highly recommend it. I think you'll absolutely love it. Let me pull up the store right here. For whatever reason, it is not actually, there it is. The Be Bold hat I got in 2 different types. My favorite one is my new black Adidas one. It's hitting the store, but because it's an Adidas brand, it's a little bit more expensive. But the quality of it, I've been wearing out. It's awesome. I got the Bold baggy fit. This is the shirt that you'll catch me out wearing throughout the week. We got the regular slim fit hoodie for those that are not carrying a little love handles around like myself. The Good to Be King shirt has been updated. It looks really solid now. Matter of fact, I had a few people order the Be Bold Good to Be King shirt, and I got a copy of it. I didn't like the print, so I'm actually sending them out a new copy free of charge. A Being in Search of Meaning is the philosophy shirt. I love that quote, by the way. It's great. And you can still make America moral again. Join in the cause. We got the hats. We have both embroidered hats as well as the printed hats. So great ways to support the show. All right. Are we still doing the psychic interview we talked about last time? I visited you at McCain. I'm still down to do it. I got to talk to Chris Michaels because he is friends with Samantha the psychic, and we can make that happen live on the air. It would be a blast. But that is his friend. He knows her personally. So I will speak with my co-host, and we will get back to you on that and make it happen. I was just thinking of her earlier today because that interaction with her still freaks me out to this day, as is. All right, everybody, that is it. That is all. I hope, as always, that I honored your time well, that we were thoughtful, we had nice critical thoughts going on here, and that we are going into tomorrow with good perspective. As always, love you all for joining in. I'll be back tomorrow night with Michaels doing our thing. We have an interview tomorrow night, I believe. think I saw that on the calendar. I forget who the person is. He's somebody in media, I think. But Michaels was booking that, so we'll be back with an interview and a guest, having a blast. Until then, have a great evening and even better Thursday. Be bold, everybody.